That's not my name. I'm not your slave. I live fine for alone, and that's how I behave with love and respect for my fellow man. Now I remind those of your kind, your statutes never can control the freeborn with their rules and demands. For I will not stand under what I do not understand. Cause I'm a free man on the land. And I'm doing everything I can.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of The Infinite Way. And you just heard Litmus A Freeman. He is a former corporate business manager from the UK that shared his journey from breaking free from the corporate world and delving to the energy industry. So, with 25 years experience of daring to move to voluntary redundancy in 2004, he took us on his escape from the matrix. And then he shared with us now his music. We welcome back Litmus A. Freeman for part three, sharing his music, sharing his love with music, and his relationship with music. Welcome, Litmus A. Freeman.
Thanks, Enolia. It's so nice to be back with you for a third time. I'm so lucky.
We are lucky. We are lucky because there are so many facets to what you bring to the table and your contribution to the world. And I'm so excited to explore and to get to know all these facets of the beautiful gifts that you bring to the world. So you
Thank
opened
you.
up with a beautiful, beautiful song. Will you share a little bit of the inspiration of this song?
Yeah, so that's called Free Man. I mean, that was just the start of it. I wrote that in 2009 Gregorian, where because in 2008 I started Project Free Man, and I was so amazed by what was revealed through that. I just thought I'm going to write a song about this at some point, you know. Yeah, and then so after about a year, when I really got it clear in my mind how all this stuff works, you know, um, I had a mate over and we were trying different tunings, and I was actually in a tuning called Dadgad for any musicians who play guitar and they know what Dadgad is, but it's basically D-A-D, G-A-D, you know.
Mhm.
And I was playing around, and then I just got this free man thing, you know, and yeah, I mean, I don't actually do it in that tuning now because it's too much messing around live to retune the whole guitar, you know, for one song. So I just do it in normal tuning now, but it inspired the song. And yeah, it's just really a summary in a song of how the free man stuff works, you know. So
Uh-huh.
it's about common law and statutes versus common law, and how your parents register your birth without you knowing about it, you know, and finding out later. And there's some stuff about money in there, you know, and but it's really just saying I realize now I was born with rights. You know, I'm a free man. I was born as a free man. And even though my parents registered me into the matrix, I'm now aware of that and I can choose to step out where I can, you know, and not to give that energy to the dark side of the matrix, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just saying um I'm a free man and I'm doing everything I can to stay a free man, you know. And
And not
it's
I'm not a slave to the matrix. So I love that. I
exactly,
love
yeah.
it. I love it. When sitting here looking at this, I am in Africa, Angola, Africa, and
Mhm.
everybody has a song. And when I say that everybody has a song, I really mean that You could be walking down the street and people will be singing in full voice, and they don't have a plug in their ear. They're not listening to music. They just have their song that they're singing. That's what they
Cool.
feel inspired to sing. And I
Amazing.
love that about here because, I remember taking long trips from Luanda to Benguela, which is about a 12-hour trip. And people will just start singing and feeling the song that's in their heart. And then others will join in if they feel so moved. But there was a tolerance of the song. There wasn't a muting of the song where people were like, can you please stop? I'm trying to rest. Or no one would ever, ever stop anyone from sharing their song of their heart. And we all have a song. We all come through, whether you exercise that song or not. We all do. We all find that there's a section of music that moves us, and it starts from an early age of when music is introduced to us. So my question to you would be, when did you finally start singing your song, and when did you start sharing your song? When you recognized it to be
So that song or just singing
just
generally, you know?
in
Yeah.
general?
Good. That's a great question. You have some great questions, you know, I gotta say. That's a great question. I was very so I've got you might remember from our astrology workshop the other day that I have Leo ascending,
Mm-hmm.
and we're more like our ascendant sign typically, unless it's afflicted in some way. We're more like our rising sign when we're younger, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, as a kid, I really didn't care. I was a big show off, you know. I used to stand on the table in school, in primary school, maybe age 8 or 9 or 10 or something, and I would sing like the Rubettes in a falsetto at the top of my voice while the teacher was out of the room, you know, and everyone would be laughing, and yeah, it was nuts, you know. I really didn't care, but but when my mum left when I was 13, it changed everything, you know, and that was my original wound, if you like. And then I
Mm-hmm.
became quite introverted and shy, you know. Um, so I didn't think I had a good voice, you know. I wouldn't sing in front of anyone. I would only sing cover versions of stuff. And if I had written a song, I would be too embarrassed to play it to anyone, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know, that we put on ourselves. Um, so yeah, I mean, really what happened was I met a guy called Cliff Coates, who's a dear friend of mine. He's not doing so good these days, unfortunately, but he's happy enough. And I did speak to him recently, but when I met him, he had like 10 songs and they were all very similar chords and similar kind of thing. But he didn't care, you know, and he just got up and he'd play these 10 songs and he'd sing at the top of his voice and he really wasn't shy. And I thought, oh, this song's a bit like the last one, and that's like the one before. But you know, it doesn't matter because he's doing it, you know. And he really
Mm-hmm.
inspired me, you know. And we were both huge Beatles fans, and we started writing songs together. And yeah, he just showed me that just if you've written something, just share it, you know. And some people will love it, and other people won't, and it's all cool, you know. You don't have to prejudge it, like you know, and you don't have to
Right.
be that decides whether someone wants to listen to it or not. That's up to them, you know. So yeah, and then I mean, we just became prolific songwriters, and now I've written over 200 finished songs, and I've got another
Oh, wow.
200 in the pipeline, you know, and poems and all sorts. So Cliff did really open Pandora's box or whatever you want to call it.
Well, he may have opened Pandora's box, but the gift was always within you because if you have 220 songs, one of the things that I've always learned is that the music is one aspect, but the words is another. The words are a gift. The words indicate poet, connection to the higher self, connection to spirit, because your words are meaningful. And when the
Well,
words are
yeah.
meaningful, they're coming from a deep, deep place within you. And, we've reached into that deep place. And I remember the first time that I ever wrote a song, because I've written songs that I actually, dare to add some music to it and then say, okay, world, here it is. I only have a couple of things out, but I actually have. And I know that the place that it came from was so sacred. It was like, okay, please, to the world, don't criticize my words because they're coming from such a deep place and such a heartfelt place. When did you find that place within you, and what were the first few songs that came out knowing that it came from such a deep place?
Yeah, I think probably that's a good question. Because it's you really make me think. Because it's a process, right? But
It is.
I guess if I think about it, when I was writing with Cliff, we thought we were Lennon and McCartney, we did well, we wanted to
Yeah.
be like Lennon and McCartney. Um, and I guess he was more Lennon, I was more McCartney. So I was more into the melody and stuff, and he was more
Uh-huh.
into the words. And he was very John Lennon because he would write a lot about himself and how he saw the world and how he was feeling. And I would write like more like McCartney in a third person or about something else. But but yeah, I guess after Project Freeman, I just became so John Lennon. I mean, for me now, it's all about the words.
Yeah.
And and as you know, I love wordplay. The Laurel Erica stuff we were talking about that really connected with me recently. So yeah, I've just become much more about what are you saying, because if you're gonna take 3 to 5 minutes of someone's time, say something, make them think, like give a message, whatever, share what you're feeling, deep. Yeah, I mean, we can all write about other things and made up things and whatever, and there is a place for that. But yeah, I just want to share my truth, as they say now, and I guess that's been quite. Even though I've always played, I mean, I played piano as a kid, just self-taught by watching what my dad did, when he played.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then I learned guitar later when I moved out, and when I was 16, I started playing guitar. But but really now it's not so much about the music. Yeah, it's all about the lyrics. So I
Yeah.
guess I guess when I really connected to that was probably, yeah, I would say since doing Project Freeman. Yeah, that so like what's that, where are we now? So about 15 years ago, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
would you say that the words come from you or the words come through you or both?
ah hmm it's a bit of both. um I gotta say, I do still have some ego, let's be honest. I think you need a bit of. I've got Gregory here, my ego's, he hasn't gone anywhere. He's still there, saying, don't forget about
Okay.
me, don't forget about me. And then Melvin and Melvina over here, they say, yeah, okay, Greg, but, stay in your box for now. But when I say, yeah, I kind of say, when I write or create, I really do feel I'm tapping into the creative energy of the universe. And that sounds a bit pretentious or grandiose, but that's how it feels.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like I am a conduit or a channel to bring that stuff into the material world through a song, through vibration and stuff, as I understand it now. Um, so, but then my ego says, yeah, but that's all cool. You're the universe. Yeah, yeah, but you did that. You did that, Litmus. So,
Yeah.
take some credit. And I'm kind of a bit, well, yeah, I did it, but me and Cliff used to say it's like words and phrases waiting there to be plucked out of the air.
It's
Um,
really important to talk about this process because a lot of people don't understand, like, as a writer, and when I was writing my books, and I finally got into that rhythm of writing and writing every single day, and I go to my favorite coffee shop, I'd order my latte. I order like my little scone that I was going to eat, and then I'd start writing. And then there would be moments when, after about 4 or 5 days of writing steady, no problem. Then I'd take a couple of days off, and then I go back to it again. I'd go back and I'd read what I wrote, and I was like, "Holy crap! Did that come from me? Did,
Right. Yeah.
did I write that?" You know,
Yeah.
and that means that I went to that place.
Yeah.
And there's this place that you go when you are so tuned in and so aligned. And yes, we have ego because we'll doctor it up maybe a little bit after we read it and
Sure.
whatnot.
Yeah.
But it came through me and from me from some greater place.
Right.
And
Yeah.
to not acknowledge that from some of the greatest writers. You talked about Paul McCartney, you talked about John Lennon, we can mention Bob Dylan, we can mention there are a plethora of great writers where like the words are so profound, right? And Bob
Mm.
Dylan proved this. You didn't care what his voice sounded like because you were just so
No,
into the words that it
exactly.
meant everything. And your words echo that
Yeah.
place. So I want to
Thanks. Yeah.
pause and take acknowledgement of this because any of us can call ourselves musical writers, and people get in the studio and they're like, okay, Jam, let's repeat this and let's just echo the same sentence over and over again, and it has no meaning. Those
Right.
are not
Yeah.
writers. I
No.
think of my friend Bukika Blakemore when she taps in and she comes up with these profound words. I know by listening to the words that she tapped into that higher place and that higher space.
Who who is that? Sorry, you said?
My friend Bukeka Blakemore, she
Okay.
sings, but she's a singer, and I've known her. She's been a dear friend for the past 4 years. And if you ever took my Empower, Achieve, Succeed through Self Mastery course, she afforded me the opportunity to have some of her songs at the end of the course so that you go through this
Okay.
cycle of thought and then you hear the
Mm.
song that just brings it all home and echoes with that cycle of thought that you just went through for
Nice.
the
Nice.
reflection. Yes.
Yeah, well, that's it. As you say, it's a two-way thing, right? It's a conversation with God, we could call it, right?
Right.
It's like, yeah, you're tapping into that source, but you have to have the ability within you to tap into the source. So, yeah, it's a two-way thing. And I kind of think sometimes, as you say, if you write for a few days and then you read it back, you're then reading it like an editor, right? Would read it. And I
Yes.
think it's more like we're editors, It's like there's all of this creative source out there, but we're kind of editing it into and organizing it into a format that people can relate to, right? Hopefully, Yeah. So I think that's the bit that we do, the skill, if you like, to to rhyme things and make them sound good and put a bit of humor in and some wordplay and whatever, but get a message across. So yeah, I just really these days I just want to play my songs with a message, So music with a message, as I call it. Yeah,
Yes.
and I love everything you said there, and but I also, do you know one of the best things you said right there
What was
in
that?
that you said scone. You said you have a coffee and a scone. Right now, I love that, Anolia, because I'm definitely a scone man. I'm not a scone person. So I I used to have debates with my ex-wife about this all the time because she would say it's a scone, and I'd say, no, it's not a scone, it's a scone. It's spelled with an O. Right? And so I always ask people, when we get like, are you a scone guy or a scone? It's like, so I'm really pleased to hear that naturally, without me saying anything, you put yourself in the scone camp.
I
Nice,
am. I'm in the scone camp.
excellent, right? But
So let's
yes, yeah, everything you said, yeah, tapping into the source, and I have um, I have 3 planets in Virgo,
uh-huh.
including my Mars conjunct Pluto in Virgo, so it gives me a lot of drive to organize things, and I'm an organizer,
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the process of plucking because that's another process that we kind of slide by and nobody really knows the really secret sauce of the plucking, which is that some of us feel and hear full orchestras or all of the music in our head as the words are coming through. And some of
Yeah.
us hear the words and then we have to apply the music and look and seek the music to give the words that rhythm and everything else. What is your plucking like? Is it the music's there and the words are just coming? Is it the words are there and you find the music and you pluck that too? Like, share with us a little bit about that process.
Again, an excellent question. So there's kind of three camps for me. Um, Sometimes and what I find is if I haven't played for a while,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just pick up the guitar, and the very first thing I play will be something completely new that I've never played before, right? And I think, oh,
Okay.
that's cool, and I'll record it, and I think that's worth recording, and I've got thousands of these things, bits, little clips of music on my phone and on my little recorder and stuff, and I keep them all. And the best ones, even if you forget them, the best ones come back. So I'll often have some little tunes or ideas for melodies or riffs or whatever. And then often forgetting the music, I'll be just writing a poem. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just writing words and I haven't got any tune at all. Um, and then it's about, and you know what Melvin will say to me then? He'll say, that these lyrics they'd fit really good with that tune. Do you remember that little tune we did? Like whenever it was, and I go, oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, good idea, man. And and I go, oh yeah, it really works. And then I put the two together, and that's really satisfying because I love tidying up, and I don't like having unused things lying around. I like to put it all together.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes it is just a piece of music, or sometimes it's just a poem. So that's cool as well. But then so yeah, sometimes music, sometimes lyrics, but then the third one is the best of all when it all comes together. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so for example, one of my songs, Badger, that just all came complete, the lyrics, the word, the music all together. And then I started, as you say, I started hearing the orchestra and how it would be arranged and the whole thing. And this is what can be frustrating for a musician who doesn't have the outlet to record properly.
Mm.
All these years, right from when you made up this song, even if it was 20 years ago, if you've never recorded it, you've still got all this music in your head that you heard when you wrote it.
Right.
So, and really, recording is a bit like therapy, because if you have a feeling or an emotion, say you're feeling anxious,
Uh-huh.
if you say to your partner or your friend or your housemate, whatever, hey, I'm really feeling anxious, and they go, oh, why is that? And you talk, as soon as you talk about it and let it out into the world, you feel better. You just feel better because you're not keeping it bottled up. And sometimes it's kind of, you get kind of full of all these songs with all these arrangements and orchestras and whatever in your mind, in your head.
Uh-huh.
So it's really nice then to get some therapy with your producer and go and record it properly and get it all out. And then you can kind of
Yeah.
forget about it and make some space for some more. So that's what I find. But yeah, I love it when it all comes together.
It's beautiful. So let's
One
talk
set.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about the music of today, which I want to share, and you can shed some light on this because I'm going to tag you to explain it a little bit more. But how the music today really doesn't have any substance, and that what they've done is they've taken out the what's the word I want to use for the harmonics that that really move and really penetrate within us. And
Hmm.
you know what I'm talking about when I'm listening to 528 hertz, I'm listening to, 432 hertz, et cetera, et cetera. Do you want to share a little bit about that and then share where your music goes with that?
Yeah, another fantastic question. You're really on a roll today, Nolia. Um, Yes. So it's funny you say this because just last night I was at a jam in a local cafe.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and at the start, there was just three of us. A guy on our friend Dillon, a French guy. He was playing like cajon or djembe, and then Jimmy was playing guitar or bass, and I was playing guitar or bass. So I said, "Oh, let's tune to 432, right? Because that's the
Right.
solfeggio, right? And it adds up
Solfeggio
to
scale.
yeah,
Exactly.
4-3, yeah, 4-3-2 adds up to nine. You know straight away that's a cool frequency, right?
Right.
So I tuned everything to 4-3-2. I didn't know he had a little keyboard thing with a almost like a Peter Frampton kind of nozzle on it, like that he plays. And of course,
Okay.
that's in 440. Um, and then later we had some sax players who were fantastic, but they're tuned to 440. Since 1930 or whatever it is when the Rockefellers bribed the music council, to make the
Yes.
standard 440. We've had this more agitated sort of frequency rather than the 432, which it used to be. Right.
And that's it right there.
Yeah. So of course it was all sounding nice in 432. And then Jimmy picks up his keyboard thing and it's of course this in 440. So I was like, and then he said, well, let's retune it all. So then we retuned it all to 440. And it's okay, but it's not as good. And I've recorded a lot in 440 because maybe I got other instruments on there and they're in 440.
Mhm.
But I really, especially acoustic stuff, now I want to do in 432. So just before we started today, why I was tuning was because I was tuning back to 432 from 440 when it was left last night. So
Yay.
so that snippet of Freeman you got was in 432 hertz, which is cool. And it does make a difference. It does
Yeah,
make a
it
difference.
makes a huge difference. Why don't you share with our audience why it makes a difference? Because I know you're knowledgeable on this. I could go on, but I want to hear from you.
Yes, and then we must come back to what you were saying about modern music because you were
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah, so these kind of solfeggio frequencies, they're in harmony, or I'm trying not to use harmony now because
Yeah.
it's got
What resonance?
harmony,
Resonance. Frequency
resonance.
resonance.
I also looked up the thesaurus like a chord. A chord is harmony, right? And a chord
Hmm.
is a chord, right? So
Right.
I think that's a good one. But those frequencies are in accord with the vibrations of the universe. So they're in resonance with the Schumann frequency, 7.83 hertz, which is the resonant frequency of the planet. And if you add 783, you get 9 as well. So there's another clue. I'm just checking that. 7 and 8 is 15. Yeah, 18. 8 and 1 is 9, right? Just
Nine.
checking.
Mhm.
Right.
You were there.
Yeah. So and 432 reduces to 9. So the 369, Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, just look for the 369. Um, whereas 440 is not in resonance with those natural frequencies. And I think that's one of the reasons, and no surprise it was introduced through money from the Rockefeller Foundation, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so they wanted to create this more agitating, harsher frequency, which all rock music and everything has been recorded in pretty much, unless people knew about this stuff. So when we play in those frequencies, we're not. So for me, this is just like the calendar that I keep banging on
Yes.
about, right? Right.
Yes. We're not in
So
the flow.
yeah, if we're in a 5 and 2 7-day week cycle thing in the matrix and none of it's lined up with the seasons and we're out of sync with nature. And when we play in 440, we're out of sync with nature. When we play in 432, we put us back in sync with nature. So that's why for me it's important. And I mean we can talk about that, but then I want to come back to what you said about modern music because it's important.
Let's go right back to modern music. The modern music is not tuned to the solfeggio scale, none whatsoever. It is always ensured that we are in discord, even in the most popular songs. And what happens is that disrupts our flow. And if that
Right.
disrupts our flow, that disrupts our thinking. And if that disrupts our thinking, than, slave to the matrix kind of thing, right? We're not thinking, we're just reacting all the time. React,
Yeah.
react.
And
I'll let
as
you
you,
finish.
yeah, yeah. And then as you said earlier, what's happened with music now is, yeah, they've taken the harmony out of it, but also the melody. There's very little melody, I mean, it's not all music, obviously, but a lot of popular music that kind of gets in the charts and gets lots of downloads and is very mainstream. It's just all about a beat. There's a beat and there's some words, but there's very little melody and harmony in there or a chord.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's really sad because for me, that's what music is. Music is
Yeah.
about a chord, a harmony. One of the reasons I love the Beatles because you put John, Paul, and George's voices together in three-part harmony, man, it's like wow.
Yes.
And that's what made them different to other bands. The fact that they
Yeah.
could do these great harmonies live. Um, so yeah, it's all about that. And I think it's interesting we're both into the trivium and quadrivium because you may have come across some guys online who've really been trying to bring the trivium quadrivium back. They've
Yes.
got a
They are.
website and the main guy from there, I forget his name now, but he did an interview with a music like professor
Uh-huh.
in America somewhere, and they were talking about this. They almost the destruction of music, like where you just reduced it to this like just a beat and some lyrics and then maybe a bass line and that's it, and it's really empty. And there's just no kind of joy in it.
And exactly
Because
that.
because I think Mozart said, I mean, don't quote me on this, but it might have been Mozart who said something like the music is the space between the notes.
Mm, it may have been Mozart. Yes.
So, I mean, I'm sure someone will correct us on that if it's not Mozart,
Uh-huh.
but if you don't have the notes in there, you you haven't got any space between the notes. You've just got a load of space. Um,
Right.
but the space between the notes, the note you've just heard and the note to come, is where you hear the music.
Hmm.
Um, because we naturally kind of anticipate, if we've heard a lot of music, especially if you hear a certain kind of progression of notes or chords, you're kind of thinking, oh, I bet I do, I bet he's going to go to an A minor 7 next.
Right. Right.
Or
So
he's going
we
to.
stand corrected. It was Claude Debussy who said that, not
Oh,
Mozart.
thank
It
you
was
very
Claude.
much.
Yeah, Claire
Excellent.
de
So you
Lune.
just it's great having the internet available, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm so Claude Debussy. I'm very sorry I gave away your quote to Mozart, but I'm glad you corrected me. So as Claude Debussy said, as everyone knows, Claude Debussy said that the music is the space between the notes. Yeah. So yeah, we need the notes in there to hear the music. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes. And I want to talk about being able to identify the types of bands that are into understanding the frequency by which the music is should be played. And this is why you loved who? Who did you love so much?
The Beatles. Yeah. You know,
Beatles.
the Beatles. I mean, okay. I
The
mean,
Beatles.
I mean, it's kind of who didn't love the Beatles, but or who
Yeah,
doesn't love the Beatles,
but this is why that their music went to another octave
hmm
for everyone because they were playing in harmony. They were playing within the solfeggio frequency. And what were some of the signs that really drew you to the Beatles and then confirmed it for you?
Yeah, I mean the harmony, um, and the energy. I,
Okay.
because with the Beatles, that was their second album actually with the Beatles. Little pun there, sorry. So please me with the Beatles. Yeah, so when I was about 10. um, my brother, borrowed the first Beatles album, Please Please Me, from 1963 off a friend of my father's, right? Um, and it was a conscious decision because so I'm 10, so it's around 1973, yeah. And the Beatles have
Mhm.
already split up. That's the incredible thing with those guys. They did all that music in about 7 years, really. It's incredible.
Right.
You can't believe it. But so we literally, me, my brother, my sister, we all sat down, we listened to Please Please Me. So the very first thing we heard was a 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 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 down. I
Yeah.
saw her standing there, right? The first track on Please Please Me. I mean, what a great way to start an album with 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, let's go. It's like it's
Uh-huh.
right away you're hooked, right? Who are these guys? So
Uh-huh.
yeah, we didn't listen to all the later stuff that they'd done before they split up. We went right back to square one and we listened to the first album, and then for a few months we just listened to Please Please Me till we knew it inside out. We knew all the lyrics and all that stuff. And then we listened to the singles that came out at that time. Then we went on to with the Beatles, the second album. We just listened to that for a few months
Right.
and the good thing, my brother did, he literally then went and bought all the albums in the order they came out in. So we kind of did a retrospective. We listened to the Beatles as they would have been heard as they came out.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much. And it was a great journey. And of course, rather than in 7 years, then we probably did it in a year or two.
Right.
Um, but it was, I mean, I fell in love because they went from this little poppy rock and roll kind of beat band, into this amazing, like progressive, psychedelic, uh, they had some reggae in there and they had rock and they had ballads and they had piano songs and they had guitar songs and they had horns and they just, they didn't stop just churning out boy girl pop songs. They
Right.
really went, they took drugs and they discovered enlightenment and George Harrison got into Indian mysticism and all of that
That's
stuff
right.
and yeah and so
I
they really
remember some
introduced
amazing solos from George Harrison.
yeah right and he had his own style. You can tell as soon as you hear a George Harrison solo you know who it is. Yeah, so they just had everything and the other thing was they all sang. It's not like they had one singer and a band. It was like, well, John does a song, Paul does a song, George has a song, Ringo even has a song.
Mhm.
And I just love that. There's not like it's not like there's one leader and there's this hierarchy. They're a band. They're a proper band. And they recorded pretty much live. If you watch the Get Back documentary, you can see they're all in the studio together and they just keep playing the song over and over and until they all get it. And they record the basic track live and then they may do some overdubs and things. But the basic, the drums, the bass, the guitars, a lot of the vocals are live. So that's another great thing. And I don't think many bands do that these days. It tends to be overdubs and stuff.
Overdubs and recorded and then electronically fixed because a lot of people, when you hear them live, they can't sing. They can't even hold
Right.
it. And yet they
Right.
deem themselves, out there, singing their song and everything. And then you hear them live and you're going, oh, no, 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 no. You got to,
Exactly, right. Exactly. And of course,
So,
this is where the industry comes in. Because
yes.
I always say, as soon as you put the word business or industry onto something creative, you kind of suck all the soul out of it.
Yeah.
So the music business, the music industry, it's more about does this performer look good on a video? And
Mm-hmm.
if they look good and we can sell it to the kids. Well, we can touch up the voice with auto tune or something, and no one will notice.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's even live auto tune as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's all these great singers out there. We had great singers last night in our little local cafe, and they can
Uh-huh.
sing better than some of the people you hear on radio and stuff,
Um,
right? And on
exactly.
download. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But I guess we sound like a bit like, I guess I sound like my dad did now when he used to come into the room and David Bowie would be on top of the pops or something, and he'd say, "Who's this
Uh-huh.
freak? And what's he doing? What's that rubbish?" And I'd say, "Hey, that's not rubbish, Dad. You can't diss Bowie. He's a genius." Yeah.
That's
I think, but
amazing.
yeah, I do think music has degraded a lot in terms of the business, like the popular music. There's still a lot of great music out there, but you just have to go out and find it. It is there. It's just not in the mainstream.
Yeah. So play something for us. Motivate us,
Okay.
inspire us.
Okay. Well, so I hope the guitar's coming through okay.
If it doesn't, its wonderful voice will be there. So we're not worried
All
about
right.
it.
Yeah, and everything I'm going to play is on Spotify anyway. So if you'd like it, you can go and listen to the proper recording. You don't
Yes.
hear the guitar. So let me play a little song called The Waking Hours
Okay.
because this song means a lot to me because I wrote it in 1995 Gregorian when I was still in work, still in marketing, and I'd been out to the pub at lunchtime with my old songwriting buddy Cliff Coates that I mentioned earlier. And it was a lovely sunny day, and I got back to my little office and I just want to stay in the pub with Cliff and write songs. I don't want to
Uh-huh.
go back to the office and do marketing reports. It's like, who wants to do that on a sunny day, right?
Any of
But it's like, what am I doing with my life? Oh my God.
us?
So I went straight because you know what I used to do if I was a bit late back from lunch, I'd go straight into the toilet and stay in there for a while and then just come out of the toilet and say, oh, and then people might think I'd been in the toilet, and they're like, where is he? Well, he's in the toilet. He's in the bathroom. The bathroom, as you say in America. But you're in Africa, so that's okay.
It's
Right. So
okay.
it's okay. So I went into the loo, and I just came up with all these words, and I actually put them to an Oasis song. Oh, so this is another technique. If you don't have a tune, you can put your words to someone else's tune, just so you don't forget them, right?
Right.
If you don't have pen and paper or a recorder or any, because we never had phones with recorders on then. So
Uh-huh.
I just thought I got to remember these words, because I'm in the toilet. I got no pen or nothing. So I just put it to an Oasis song, and then later I just changed the tune.
Okay.
And it's really about how I used to feel then, and wanting to get out of the matrix. And it took me a few years after that, but for me, this song really sums up that feeling, that you're not happy and you want to get out and do something else and be yourself.
Right.
So it's called The Waking Hours. Ain't it strange how we change when we wake from the sleeping hours, and the stream of our dreams slips away in the morning shower. We're denied and deprived of the thoughts in our fantasies, and we rise to a world in which we no longer long to be. You can see us walk into work every day in the sunshine, wishing the days away. And so few really do what they like and what they're good at, to spend their time in the times hanging round on the underground. We spend years learning to be what we're not, but never sure how to fit the profile that they're looking for. We turn up and try in a shirt and a tie, What a part of the stuff we hide deep inside. Longs to reach for the sky and fly and fly and fly. Living out what's in your head is the best way to get you out of bed, to be you, just to do what you like and what you're good at too. And to use the other side of your brain. And to your part of your soul behind in your name. There's a reason we dream to make the most of the waking hours. We dream to make the most of the waking hours. So make the most of your waking hours. You make the most of your waking hours. Your waking hours. Your waking hours. Your waking hours. Your waking hours.
How beautiful and how befitting. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. That was beautiful.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot, that song, because it kind of set me on
Yeah.
the path, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that you just talked to everybody's heart because all of us who are working, all of us who are stuck, yeah, wanting to be able to shift that life and wanting to be able to make the most of the waking hours. People forget that we have one life to live, one life, and you should be working to live, not living to work. And
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, we are caught in that trap because we're taught how to live to work. And,
Mm-hmm.
where's your loyalty to the company? And where's your
Yeah.
loyalty to this? And where's your loyalty to that? And, that's not how we're supposed to be spending our lives. I always
No,
say,
because
oh, go ahead.
no, go on. You finish what you're
I,
saying.
I,
I
I
love
was
it.
just going to say, I always say this saying, dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt.
Right.
And people will say, well, what do you mean by being dreamt? And being dreamt means that you're living to work. You're doing what you're told, and you're saying that this is what life has to look like because this is what I was told to look like, and you're not doing anything that honors what you feel like doing. And
Yeah,
so living your whole life based on what somebody else told you to do. And
exactly.
why we're here. So that's why I love creating programs to help people break out of that
Excellent.
completely.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep doing your thing. Yeah, because if you're being dreamt, yeah, you're a character in someone else's dream
Yep.
rather than being the aspect of God that creates their own dream, and then lives it out in the material world. Yeah, manifests it. So when we give, they always want us to give our allegiance to the flag or our allegiance to the company or our allegiance to the shareholders or our allegiance to money or something else outside of ourselves. But
Yes.
the only reason we're here is to give allegiance to ourselves, our soul, and our connection to
God,
we can call it God or the creative
God, the
force of
universe,
the universe
the
or
creator, the all,
the
great
old,
one.
whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates for you. But basically, it's all about know thyself, find out who you are, find out what you're here to do, what is your mission, your purpose, and do that. And if you do that, the universe will open all the doors and put everything you need in your path, and it will all come. because it wants you to do that. That's why we're here. And yeah, to find ourselves and our soul and our connection to God and the
Yeah.
creative energy. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I can't believe that we're coming up on an hour. You know, Litmus A
No
Freeman, I've
way.
known you forever.
I know, you too. It's like, I can't, there's no way it's an hour. Come
No
on, you're
way it's
joking.
an hour, right?
I only played one song.
I know, I know.
Well,
What do you
stop
want to
talking,
leave the
he
audience
said.
with?
Yeah.
What do you want to share with our audience? What wisdom do you want to share with the musicians out there who are aspiring, who are trying to get their music out there, who are sitting down having a block right now, trying to write their music or can't bring the melody or the tune to the music? What do you want to say to them? And take your time,
Well,
you know?
okay. Take your time. Take your time. That's one of me and my friend's songs, actually. Take your time. Slow it down, take your time.
Right.
Yeah. But the irony with that one, it was a really fast rock song. Time, slow it down, you know. But I think, yes, you won't be surprised that I do have quite a lot of advice, but whether anyone wants to hear it or not is another
I think it's
question.
important.
Yeah. And it's nice to be invited to give advice, isn't it? And this is what you're doing right now. So I can let myself loose. Right? So there's a few things that spring to mind straight away. Um, when I was first starting to sing and realizing I could sing, like I used to when I was a kid, before my mum left home, um, I used to sing like I was impersonating the singer of that song, you know?
Hmm.
So, you know, if it was a Smiths song, I'd be singing, I was happy in the face of a-" I'd be singing like Morrissey, you know, and I'd try and sing like John Lennon or whatever. And to be fair, it was my ex-wife, Sharon. She said to me, why are you singing like that? Why didn't you just sing in your own voice, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it sounds better, you know. She said, no, it doesn't. You've got a good voice, sing in your own voice. So that was great advice. So if you do covers, please, please, please sing in your own voice, guys and gals, because you know, one thing that really pisses me off is when there's a kind of a trend. I mean, a few years ago it was Katy Perry, and Katy
Hmm.
Perry kind of sang a bit like this, you know, and then I go down the shop and a bit, you know, and then everyone you went to see playing, they were all singing like that, like in a bit of a Cockney accent. And I'm like, you're not from London, you know, don't sing like that, sing in your own voice, you know. But everyone's trying to be Katy Perry then, or whatever it is, you know. So first thing is always sing in your own voice, because if you sing in your own voice, that vibration and frequency is going to connect you to your soul and then you've got a chance of connecting to the source, and then you won't have any blockage because you'll open
Uh-huh.
up that channel. So always sing in your own voice. I think the other advice is don't write to impress other people. So,
Ah.
you know, now, I always say I've written some very cheesy, poppy, like what I might call shit, you know, in the past. Like, oh, I wouldn't dare play that to anyone, you know. But I always say, you
Uh-huh.
know, a song, a song is what it is. You know, you can't make a song into something it's not meant to be. And if you do, you spoil it, you know. So yeah, I'm sure you'll all write some really cool like rock or whatever it is that you really want to do. But sometimes you're just gonna get some really cheesy like you know poppy kind of thing. It's all about love or whatever it is. And then you know if you're too much in your ego and what will people think of this, you'll say, oh, I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm not going to play that to anyone, you know, because that's not really how I want to be seen. But you're a
Uh-huh.
conduit for that song. That song wants to be in the universe, in the material manifestation, and you're the one who's been given the opportunity to do it, you know. And it's a test. It's a test. Are you really bothered more about what other people think, or are you really bothered about expressing your creativity, whatever form it comes in, right? And I think that's what we got to do. So I've written some very cheesy things, but I'll still play them because this is how the song goes, you know,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's not, if I try and change it and make it all cool, it's just not going to have the message that it's meant to have, you know? So that's my second piece of advice. is let the song, let it be, let it be what it is. Let it be. There you go, a Beatles reference again. Let it be. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I guess my third piece of advice um, is say something. You know,
Mm,
just you've got, as I said, you've got 3 to 5 minutes or whatever it is with a song. And the biggest gift anyone can give you in life is their time. Okay. It's worth more than all the money, all the gifts, everything. If someone is willing to give you their time, they're taking part of their life out and they're giving it to you, right? And that's a real honor. And you should respect that honor. I've played a lot of gigs where I'm sitting there playing, I'm singing some beautiful little ballad about another life or something, and all this deep work, and people are all, blah, 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 chatting away in the back,
right.
and no one's listening, right? And you kind of think, well, fuck you, like I'm here, I'm pouring my hat on you, and you're talking about the football or something, whatever it is. Um,
Right.
so when
And I
you
think
write a
every
song,
musician wants to say that when that's happening at that moment.
right? There's a great I have done that, okay? And people got very embarrassed, but I'm really glad I did it and I would do it again. I have had that experience. But there's a great scene in the movie Yesterday. I don't know if you've seen
Uh-huh.
it, but it's yeah. And so there's this local struggling musician and he's written his own songs, and nobody he's in the pub playing and the kids are all running around and everyone's talking and no one's paying any attention. And he's thinking, oh, what's the bloody point in this? Why am I bothering? And I
Right.
know the movie, but then he discovers all the beat. He remembers all the music and something happens in the world and no one else remembers the Beatles, right? So he's playing a Beatles song and no one's heard it. And they're like, and when he just plays it to his mates, they're like, wow, what's that? That's amazing. But when he's playing them in the pub, in a gig with the kids running around, still no one's listening. So it doesn't even matter if it's a fantastic Beatles song, still no one's listening.
Right.
But when you write a song and you release it, if someone's taking time, they're giving you 3 or 5 minutes to listen to your song, share a message with them, say something, because they're giving you the biggest gift they can give you is their time. So honor that gift and make sure you say something meaningful in those 3 to 5 minutes that will, pass on some wisdom or make them think about their life or whatever it is, but just say something. And that's what all the greats do. That's what John Lennon did. He said something. I When I got older, I kind of went off the McCartney stuff more because it's great stuff, but it tends to be more. He's not really talking about himself, and how he feels and stuff
Right.
so much. Whereas Lennon was always hat on your sleeve, bare your soul to the world. And I did write a little song with a friend once called "The Artist Bears Their Soul for the World." And I think when you do that, people get that, and they connect with that, and they
Right.
see your vulnerability, and they see that nothing's perfect, and they see that we all have times of anxiety and depression or whatever it is. But if there's a message, you can come through all that and you can be good again. So yeah, so sing in your own voice. What was the second one? I can't remember now, but sing in your own voice
You know, always have something to say.
and make sure you say something was the third one. And
Yes.
whatever I said, the second one was. Yeah.
Yes. So, where can people get your music? Where can they find your music? Where can they listen to more of your inspirational work?
Okay. So what I've done with my music, it's like a pipeline, a production line. So, or a pipeline from the source or whatever. So I start out with lots of demos. So if you and what I like to do, I like to share my work in progress. So I'll typically I call them camper van demos because I lived in a van for 10 years and all I had was a little handheld recorder and I would just sit in the van with my guitar and do a demo and that's it. No effects, nothing, all live and just very raw. So my songs typically, even now, when I don't live in my van, when if I've got a new song, I'll go to the beach in the van and I'll record a demo in the van, you know. So all of my demos and all my music is on my SoundCloud. Um,
Okay.
and if you go, you can either go to SoundCloud and type in Litmus A Freeman or Project Freeman, and you'll get it. But if you go to my website, so this one is freemanmusic.org, O-R-G. And when I'm playing live, I say it's because it's an orgasmic experience.
Okay.
Freemanmusic.orgasmo, you know, okay. You know, I hope that comes over anyway. So freemanmusic.org has got all my demos and the finished ones and everything. Um,
Okay.
Now some of those demos I do a home studio recording, which is a bit of a better demo, maybe got drums and stuff on it. And they're all on there. But then the ones I really finish off properly, more to studio quality, they go on projectfreemanmusic.net.
Okay.
Projectfreemanmusic.net. And if you go there, you've got all the links to all the platforms. So they're all on. So those ones get released to the major platforms like Spotify and YouTube and all those things I don't really want to use, but you have to because that's what everyone listens to, right? So if this was a debate for a long time, but if you're not on there, people don't find your stuff so accessible. So there's about 27, I think, I've finished, which are on Spotify and stuff. But if you go to projectfreemanmusic.net, you got all those in one place. Yeah, but if you like rough camper demos, you know, go to freemanmusic.org. Um, and if you go on freemanmusic.org, you'll see a little menu at the top of the page, and it says like albums and songs and stuff, gigs. And if you click on songs, you'll get an alphabetical list of the like 220, whatever it is, songs which are published there. But
Uh-huh.
also there's also a chronological order playlist there as well. And that's got a playlist from SoundCloud with I think I've got about, of the 220, I've got about 115 demoed, you know, so you can hear them. The rest are just lyrics. So if you want to hear the demos, you can put one playlist with 113 songs in chronological order, you know, depending on how much time you've got and you want to give to Freeman, you know, it's like and there's all sorts in there, you know, there's funny stuff, there's deep stuff, there's emotional, there's relationship stuff, there's realization stuff, there's freedom stuff, you know, whatever is all there. So I hope you enjoy that little
Beautiful.
exploration. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to close the show out, but I'm going to ask you upon my closeout that you sing us out. Okay.
Okay.
So
Right.
I want to thank my audience and I want to thank you, Litmus A. Freeman, for being a guest here. If you like what you saw, please like us. If you loved what you heard, please share this episode and please do subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. This has been another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And we're going to close out by a song from Litmus A. Freeman. And thank you for being our guest.
And this is one I wrote with Cliff Coates, my good old buddy. So this one's for you, Cliff, as well. So it's called The Universal Constant. Time, time is an endless rain, and we drifted along. And now is the only place where we can banish doubt. Life, life is for living. Through life, we will find out that love is the only thing that we can live without. It's the universal constant that weaves its way through time. Like time is bounds are endless, making human hearts entwine. It's the universe constant, makes life worth living for. It bonds us all together, and opens all the doors of the door.